Well, this doesn't sound all that good, as just as tourism season starts, some people canceled their vacations after they read a local blog.
It claims there's a no swim advisory in Myrtle Beach. We sent News 13's Brendan McDavid to investigate this, and Brennan, city officials say this is completely false.
Nicole, the article was posted on MyrtleBeachSC.com and shared thousands of times on social media. It's referencing signs like the one behind me that reads, "No swimming advised." Residents angered by high levels of bacteria, swimming not advised in Myrtle Beach. Officials remain silent on no swim advisory. It's these headlines that city spokesperson Mark Crua says are 100% misleading.
We have had reports that people have canceled vacations because of this bad information. The business community, I gather, is not very happy with it.
In response to the article, Ocean Lakes Campground posted this on their website, letting visitors know it is safe to swim in Horry County.
For information that's not correct, we've received a surprising number of phone calls and emails.
Crua says the signs have been up since 2007, and Myrtle Beach is in no way closed to swimmers.
Some wrong information is so wrong that it's not possible to easily answer it.
So I called DHEC to find out what these signs actually mean. Robert Yannity.
Essentially what these signs are, they are more cautionary than anything.
Yannity says the signs were strategically placed at rain runoff locations along the beach to warn people not to swim within 200 feet of the sign or after rainfall.
These are not in any way advisories to indicate that people shouldn't be swimming or recreating near the water. These areas are just places that have the potential for bacteria after a heavy rain.
However, MyrtleBeachSC.com writer David Huck says Myrtle Beach shouldn't be under any kind of advisory.
It's embarrassing.
Huck says he's not surprised his article on the swim advisory went viral.
People care about their vacation.
He referred to this sign at Wither Swash as a black eye on the city.
This is an environmental issue. It's a public safety issue.
He claims the city hasn't done anything about it, but the city says it spent tens of millions of dollars on stormwater management. And DHEC also lists Surfside Beach as under a long-term swim advisory. For a complete look at water quality on the Grand Strand, visit our website, WBTW.com. Reporting in Myrtle Beach, Brendan McDavid, News 13.
And the fallout continues after a swim advisory in Myrtle Beach. Yesterday, we spoke with the city about a recent blog post that went viral. That post says that Myrtle Beach is under a no swim advisory. That's not entirely true. Signs posted say swimming is not advised in certain areas, but only after a heavy rain. City officials say the beach is open to swimmers. The post, though, has prompted some visitors to rethink their vacation plans.
News 13's Brennan McDavid spoke with local businesses to find out if it's led to any cancellations. Brennan.
Yeah, businesses that I spoke to today say the post didn't cause any cancellations, but it did require some explaining. The Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce has been using social media to let people know that the beach is safe and open to swimmers.
It just really kind of got out of control.
Ocean Lakes Campground Marketing Director Barb Crum says she heard about the apparent no swim advisory last week.
We were getting emails and phone calls from homeowners and campers and house renters wanting to know if they could swim in Myrtle Beach.
Confused, Crum says she did some research and came across this post on MyrtleBeachSC.com. The post refers to these signs, which DHEC says are strategically placed at rain runoff locations along the beach.
As locals, we understand stormwater and swim advisories, but when you're coming from another area, they were really concerned about changing their summer vacation plans to Myrtle Beach.
So Crum decided it was best to educate visitors on what the signs mean and where it is safe to swim.
Those facts that DHEC gave me are what's on our webpage for swim advisories.
And according to DHEC, areas within 200 feet of these signs are under a long-term swim advisory. The rest of the beach is open.
For a visitor from Ohio or Pennsylvania who doesn't understand the difference between a long-term advisory and a no swim advisory, it can be easily confused.
Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce President Brad Dean says posts like this have negative consequences.
Sadly, this kind of misinformation, which was propelled on the internet, could have a dramatic impact on our spring and summer travel if we aren't proactively addressing it.
Dean says they're answering questions and using social media to let visitors know the water is clean and safe to swim in, but they may have to advertise.
Most visitors assume that our beaches are clean and safe, so it's a hard message to advertise. But if it becomes damaging enough to local businesses, we certainly will.
And Myrtle Beach has already spent millions on an ocean outfall project. For now, Dean says they're doing everything they can to protect water quality. Reporting in Myrtle Beach, Brenna McDavid, News 13.
2 weeks ago, News 13 told you about a blog that was causing some controversy over the cleanliness of ocean water in Myrtle Beach. City leaders had DHEC officials test the water, and results showed bacteria in the ocean well below harmful levels. News 13's Taylor Herlong is here now. And Taylor, city leaders plan to spend tens of thousands of dollars just to make sure people all over the nation now know that, right?
That's right. Today I sat down with Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce President Brad Dean. He told me they've already spent $30,000 of a new advertising campaign locally, regionally, and nationally, and they plan to spend even more. That's one of a few things the city's had to pay for, and they've had to contradict a blog post, and some of that money is coming out of your pocket. As waves roll in the Myrtle Beach area, the cleanliness of the water has sparked conversation all over the nation.
We've had visitors all the way from Canada and as well right here in South Carolina, hundreds, if not thousands, calling, wanting to know, is the water clean and safe?
That's because of a recent blog about bacteria in the water and no swim advisories.
One obscure blog filled with erroneous information is causing a terrible disruption to our economy.
Janice Carter is visiting from Canada and says she read about the water quality, but
I read where it was and I thought people are known to blow things out of proportion. And that's exactly what I thought when I read it in the paper.
The city ordered special tests from DHEC to prove the blog wrong and spent $30,000 on a new ad to play all over the nation, telling people the beaches are safe.
We're going to spend as much as we have to spend to get this message in as many people's TV sets as we can.
But who pays for it?
The taxpayers pay for the tests that had accurate information, and the taxpayers will now be helping pay for promotion to keep people coming here.
I would say to them, don't even think about it. Just come down. We were in the water yesterday, and it's gorgeous down here. Just come.
I took a look at statistics today from Coastal Carolina University's weekly tourism study, and research actually shows occupancy rates are actually up in hotels and condos in the Grand Strand compared to this time last year. Reporting for News 13, I'm Taylor Herlong.
Tonight, News 13 takes an independent look at water quality along Grand Strand beaches. Whether or not the water is safe became a big question for potential visitors earlier this spring after word of swimming advisories spread through social media. News 13's Brandon Herring took water samples to an independent lab and looked at long-term data to give you a better idea of what's in the water.
The beautiful beaches of the Grand Strand attract millions of visitors each year, but in early March, some began to question vacation plans. They wondered if too much harmful bacteria is in the water because of a post on MyrtleBeachSC.com, a website owned and operated by local writer David Hucks. The post mentioned a swimming advisory at the beach, and it became so alarming on social media, News 13 reported on it 3 times, including interviews with Hucks and tourism professionals.
We've had 1 million visitors in the last few days. It wasn't surprising at all. It wasn't surprising because this is very important.
It's generated a lot of concern for us. Is it safe to swim? Should I keep my reservation? Are we allowed to go in the water?
They were really concerned. I'm surprised that one source can have such an impact.
The website post centered on swimming advisory signs like this. They're based on water testing done by DHEC, South Carolina's Department of Health and Environmental Control. More on the signs in a moment. We wanted to do our own testing to see how much bacteria is in the water and if it matched up with results from DHEC.
This is sterile.
So the lab director for Florence's environmental wastewater treatment plant trained me on how to collect water samples, and he agreed to test our samples. I collected 3 samples from the ocean, and just for comparison, 1 sample from the Intracoastal Waterway and 1 sample from a community pool. The first ocean sample came from water right in front of Wither Swash in Myrtle Beach, where storm water drains to the ocean. An advisory sign there says bacteria levels could be high in this area, especially just after a rainfall. We tested a day after it rained, about 1.5 inches. We also took a sample several hundred feet down the beach from the Swash, just outside the advisory area. And our third ocean sample came from just south of Myrtle Beach State Park. We took those samples along with the swimming pool and waterway samples to the lab. Although this testing isn't scientifically certified, Lab Director Malcolm Cook put the samples through a process similar to the normal testing here.
Normally we test for E. coli and fecal coliform.
He tested for bacteria called Enterococcus. Simply put, it's a widely accepted indicator of water that could make you sick. And anything above a 104 measurement means you shouldn't swim in the water.
There was very few of the bacteria that was in that water when we looked and we experimented.
In this video, anything you see light up under the black light indicates bacteria. Just a trace in the water from the swash area, nothing from the other 2 ocean samples or the pool. And this one is from the Intracoastal Waterway. It tested at 108. But because the waterway is a different type of water, the acceptable level there is slightly higher. DHEC also tested the ocean just a day before us and found similarly low levels of bacteria in the areas we sampled. It didn't seem to be an alarming amount of bacteria.
I'd have jumped in.
But our samples just indicate one moment in time. Coastal Carolina University and DHEC have long-term data from Grand Strand beaches. Those numbers are what prompted these advisory signs starting in 2007. The signs are most often at areas with drainage to the beach. They indicate that in the last 5 years, 10% of the samples taken in that particular spot had bacteria levels above the acceptable level.
They were merely a proactive effort to help educate the beach-going public of the potential that there could be some elevated levels of bacteria, especially following rainfall. The number of the long-term signs that we have posted have been coming down. I think that that's good news for our coastline.
In the Grand Strand, DHEC tests 52 spots from Cherry Grove down to Pawleys Island, and this year 16 of those spots have signs advising you not to swim for 200 feet in each direction. 8 of those signs are in Myrtle Beach, and the other half are in Surfside Beach, Briarcliff Acres, and unincorporated beaches of Horry County. If an area without a long-term advisory sign tests above the 104 standard for 2 days in a row, DHEC will put out a temporary sign. That's happened twice in North Myrtle Beach and once in Horry County since this year's testing began May 1st. DHEC's long-term online figures show bacteria levels do often fluctuate, usually jumping in drainage areas after a rainfall.
It's like the stock market. It goes up and down. You know, so when do you pull your money? It's at its highest peak. So when you don't go swimming, when it's at its highest peak.
And you can find out if bacteria levels have peaked too high by checking out this map on DHEC's website from May 1st through October 1st. If you zoom in to the beach areas, you can see where they tested. There are areas in green that show they tested just fine recently. And then if there were any orange spots, those would be the temporary advisories when they put out those signs. And then if you also zoom in, you can see that there are some yellow areas. Those are the places with those long-term advisory signs. So this really can be your best way to see what the water quality is from week to week. I'm Brandon Herring, News 13.
All right, thank you, Brandon. We'll have a link to DHEC's water quality map at WBTW.com, and we also plan to continue following this story to see what state and local leaders are doing to improve water quality and to let the public know when there are spikes in bacteria levels.
First up tonight at 11, an internet article continues to get a lot of attention. Now, it claims a young girl went into the ocean in North Myrtle Beach last Thursday and was in the emergency room Friday from contaminated water.
News 13's Janet Jones looked into the water quality on the Grand Strand and learned how these claims are impacting tourism. And Janet, what did you find out?
Bob and Megan, this time of year, the water is tested on a weekly basis. I reached out to DHEC today. They told me the levels are safe and well below what is deemed dangerous. And while the levels appear to be fine, this post has created a headache for many involved with tourism. The Grand Strand has been crawling with tourists since mid-June, and it's only going to get busier if people still want to come to our beaches. This post online has raised a lot of questions.
We've received numerous calls, most of them out of concern.
George Durant, the VP of Tourism Development, says he's doing all he can to get the message out that the water is safe.
Thankfully, we've got some science on our side. Both Coastal Carolina University and DHEC test our waters on a weekly basis, and we find that, again, we don't reach any of the thresholds for safety.
But with a post that has more than 40,000 shares, Durant says that can be difficult.
Our city manager here at the city of North Myrtle Beach has actually reached out to the family, and in reaching out to the family found that this child may have had an illness recently that may have contributed to this.
We reached out to the largest rental company on the Grand Strand to see if the post hurt hurt business. Kyle Thomas, the guest service manager for Elliott, said he's received calls from concerned guests. His concern, though, is what he calls irresponsible journalism.
When it hits home, and when it's something that could affect you or your friends or peers' livelihoods, just to get a few more clicks on the internet, I don't think they quite understand the reach that it could possibly have.
Myrtle Beach had a similar scare a few months back after a posting on the same website and spent thousands of dollars on an ad campaign to reassure locals and tourists that the water was safe. Durant with the Chamber of North Myrtle Beach says that's not a real option in this case.
We don't have the resources to wage a huge paid campaign to address issues like this. So social media can be our friend, PR can be our friend, and good old-fashioned customer service can be our friend.
Thomas said he's using his own judgment to combat the ad.
North Myrtle Beach is a perfectly safe ocean to swim in. I have 2 young kids that I would have no problem swimming in there.
I reached out to David Hucks, the man who wrote the post on MyrtleBeachSC.com. He said, quote, "It would be nice to see clean water all the time. Clean beaches are important." I asked him about the water quality testing and told him what the numbers said from DHEC earlier today. He said that the numbers were tested on Tuesday when this incident happened on a Thursday, and that the water quality levels could have changed in that time. Reporting live tonight, Jana Jones for News 13.
Tonight, News 13 takes a closer look at what local governments do to help keep ocean water safe.
And with some concerns about the water continuing on social media, News 13's Brandon Herring spent weeks investigating how other beaches along the East Coast deal with the same issue.
He found some possible improvements, including one that will take several more years to finish on the Grand Strand.
Nearly 300 miles north of Myrtle Beach in Virginia Beach, Virginia, the Golden Sand and Boardwalk hide a major engineering feat.
It's been remarkably successful as an overall project.
Virginia Beach engineer Phil Roars says under the boardwalk is a 10-foot wide pipe that collects water that runs off from streets, parking lots, and rooftops in any impervious surface. Pumps push that stormwater runoff through 9 pipes underground, 2,000 feet offshore to the end of the pipes on the ocean floor. The drainage system is called Ocean Outfalls, and it's designed to protect the oceanfront from storms and flooding. Roars says it also protects public health.
Being able to discharge the water offshore away from human contact is clearly, we think, a human health bonus.
The first outfalls were finished in 2001, with more added in 2008. In the Grand Strand, there are also 9 outfalls, but here beach development stretches about 2 times farther than in Virginia Beach. Out of 6 local jurisdictions, North Myrtle Beach has 5 of the outfalls. Myrtle Beach has the other 4. Cost is a major obstacle to building more. North Myrtle Beach estimates it needs $60 million more to finish about 6 more outfalls. The money would come mostly from stormwater fees paid in taxes.
Unfortunately, the federal government's been kind of on a hiatus and new starts for major civil works projects for quite a while now.
While outfalls do help get potentially harmful stormwater out of beach swimming areas, they're far from the only water management effort in the Grand Strand. There are lots of tactics to slow and filter water before it gets to the ocean, including numerous filtration mechanisms in drainage areas. Horry County even has one ultraviolet disinfection system at Pirate Campground. However, it's a method Roars and others say isn't practical on a widespread scale because of the space it would take to run all stormwater over ultraviolet bulbs.
It's absurd, really.
As for chemical disinfection treatment, the EPA prohibits that. And even with the current efforts, or even more that could be done, experts acknowledge there's only so much that can be done to keep ocean water clean.
Natural bodies of water are not sterile. You know, each of us takes a risk, overall minimal risk, but each one of us takes a risk when we go into any body of water.
Nonetheless, keeping people out of those spots with higher bacteria levels is a potential area of improvement for the Grand Strand. Local governments follow the state's lead and use nearly the minimum standard from the EPA when it comes to notifications about water testing results. That delays public notice by a day, and advisories are just suggestions for people to stay out of the water around the testing site. Virginia Beach has set its own higher standard by electing to close swimming areas after just one test shows elevated bacteria. The city's public health director says it's a practice enacted in 2001, even before the city had its outfalls fully operational.
We wanted to ensure that we gave the highest level of protection that our city could offer.
Lifeguards enforce the no swimming notices with backup from police if necessary.
We are actively taking a part in ensuring the public safety.
That's in contrast to the more passive approach of advisories that notify the public through press releases and sometimes overlooked signage. But closures certainly aren't the norm in the Southeast. On the East Coast, only Virginia Beach and several northeastern states respond with closures as part of their normal beach monitoring process.
I believe in what we're doing. I think it's wonderful. I don't have the data to say that it's any better than the advisories that are out there.
Dr. Heidi Kohlberg says regardless of how water testing is handled, it's ultimately up to you to realize your risk.
What risk you're comfortable accepting, because there's always a risk with anything we do. Whether it's getting in our car and driving, walking across the street, or swimming in the ocean or a pool.
I have emailed nearly every elected leader on the Grand Strand to see if they would ever support closing swimming areas or activating advisories sooner after a test showed elevated bacteria. That was late on Friday, and by Monday afternoon, only County Councilman Gary Loftus has replied to say the ocean is fine, better than most. DHEC responded by saying, we believe that our guidelines are protective for the public. I'm Brandon Herring, News 13.
And if you would like to see a change in how our area handles stormwater or responds to water tests, you can contact your elected official. We'll keep you updated if local leaders take up the issue right here on News 13.